Hey friends, it's happening. Welcome to my first podcast. I'm excited, I'm nervous, and listen, I'm a wreck. But hey, I can do this. I know I can. So before I introduce my first guest, I would like to share the why for this podcast and this platform. Last May, I published my book, Triumph Over Failure and Fear. And right after I published and launched my book, I put my book in a box because there was some drama surrounding my book. And the thing is, I never spoke about it again. This January, one morning, I just woke up with this thought ringing in my head. Sally, no one can steal your dream without your permission. And I realized that deep inside me, my subconscious was just screaming, Sally, you need to do what you were called to do. Get your book out of the box. If it's in the box, it won't help anyone. So I decided that fear was no longer going to hold me hostage. But along that same thought process, I just had this thought in my head. How many people out there have stories of resilience to share? But like me, they just lock it up in a box because they are afraid. Why not give them a voice? Why not give them a platform to share the stories? And this is where the Sally Allen podcast came about, this idea came about, right? That sharing stories are powerful. It changes lives. I believe that as human beings that we go through hardship so that we can share our stories with other people to encourage them and let them know that they're not alone. And also to let them know that they can overcome. I think it's so amazing and it's so healing. And you'll be amazed, like when you share your story, and I can attest to this, how it empowers you. So, the big question today is, what does a one-way ticket and a simple sign on a tree has to do with hope? Let's ask our first guest, our very first guest, and I'm so excited to have her on our show, Beth Greco, CEO and President of Hoving Home.
Sally, it's so good to be with you, and thank you for letting me be your first guest. I'm so proud of you for doing this and so inspired by your courage.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it.
So, let me jump into the question?
Yeah, please jump into the question. Tell us, I know, how did you go from addiction to go into CEO and president of this very prestige nonprofit organization?
Yeah, I mean, it was a story of a lot of people believing in me, pushing me to believe in what God could do in my life. So I've been in addiction for years, in and out of hospitals, in and out of prison, and it really had me bound. There was just no way out. I had no hope. And I remember being in a hospital in the end of 1991. So I've been in recovery for 30 years now. And so the end of 1991 in a hospital, and a pastor that I had grown up going to his church showed up at the hospital and said, do you want to try something else? Ended up making some phone calls. Within a series of weeks, I was on an airplane to the state of New York. Now I'm a Southern Texas girl. So headed to New York and got off that airplane at Newark, New Jersey, got in the car, drove the hour and a half to the home I was going into, which at the time was Walter Hoving Home, now Hoving Home. And I remember turning to the left onto the property, and as I drove down as I was riding down the driveway, there was a sign to the left that said, "Speed limit 15, we love our girls." Now, my church had been trying to help me for years, and they gave me a one-way ticket to New York. Now, you could get offended at that, like that kind of means we don't want you back. But for me, it was kind of like, you need to leave the old behind. And have your life changed. But when I saw that sign, something ignited. It was hope. And I hadn't felt hope for a really long time. And I couldn't really explain it. In that moment, I knew that something was going to change. Something was going to be different. I didn't know the journey I was about to be thrust upon. But I entered this incredible recovery ministry, still active today. We're in our 55th year. And went through the long-term residential program, worked there, have been working there now for 28 years, and became CEO 6 years ago. So, I'm more surprised than anybody else, I assure you, that this is my life today. And just so grateful for all that God did, seeing me in a place of such desperation. I often say that that there has to be a major breakdown sometimes before there's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And just getting through it, right? Just getting through it, and that's all about what you teach, resiliency. Just hanging in there when everybody else has given up, even for yourself, but also for other people. I mean, my journey now is doing it for others. I mean, I've kind of crossed that threshold of walking in victory and feeling like my life is full, and I'm married, I have a child, and God has given me way more than I deserved.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for it. Now I get to do that for other people. We often say that at our ministry, we employ a lot of people that go through the program. We call them missional hires. And we always say, the rescued become the rescuers.
Yeah.
We're just stirred to help because so many people helped us. And so that's kind of that story of, I think hope changes everything.
I love that. But I think like you've gone into so many different homes and so many different places before this worked. So what was different over here?
Probably a lot of things. First, it was long term.
Yeah.
And that changed, a 30-day just got me clean, but didn't give me tools to live a productive life. Also, it was Christian. This is my first Christian program. And finding out there was a God that loved me.
Yeah.
And that he could actually help me.
Yeah.
And he could walk this journey with me and be in the trenches and struggle through it with me, changed everything. And then a great Christian community around me of people. I mean, I can remember one time trying to leave, feeling really hopeless one day, and went into the director's office, and I said, I just don't think this is for me. I said, it's just too hard. I can't do it. I am just not cut out for this.
Yeah.
And she said, if you will stay, I'll believe that you can do it until you can believe it for yourself. And for me, that kind of belief from somebody I admired and respected said, that she believed I could do this if I would just stay and walk through the hard parts of what was going to happen. Not an easy journey. Addiction is not an easy journey to come out of, but man, so worth it. So worth it.
I think it's like one of the things that we hear all the time is that we have to believe in ourselves in order to start doing something. But what I'm hearing you say is sometimes we need people to believe in us when we don't have that strength to believe in ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I had tried on, willpower and all different things to get clean. And I mean, this was my 13th program. I mean, I didn't go, it wasn't my first try and I got it. I failed a lot. And I was just not, there was just not enough belief in myself that could have changed me. It became, what changed me was my belief in God, in Jesus Christ. So that shifted everything. And then his people, God's people coming around and believing in me. And when I get to those moments where I would just get stuck and couldn't go any further, somebody would help push me through it or give me the resources to get through it or walk through it in a different way or help me see something. Because, if we're only relying on ourselves, there's only one opinion. Yeah. And sometimes it's just foolish opinion if it's mine.
I totally agree with that. I believe in tribe. I believe in community. I call it mind melding, just having many brains in the room and people. So who impacted you most when you were there? Like that one person you'd be like, changed my life.
Oh, there's probably too many to count. But when I first walked in, we still do this in our ministry. We're assigned the new person is assigned what we call a big sister.
Yeah.
So it's a mentor for the first 30 days, 2 months, whatever the person needs. And Belinda was my big sister. She changed my life. She was so patient. She was so kind. She was in the program too. Yeah. So she was just farther ahead of me.
Yeah.
And so she gave me hope that, man, if she can change, maybe I can too.
Right.
Because her story was similar. And she just really helped me, the staff team, the directors, but probably the one that's had the most influence long term on my career and just in leadership was the founder of the ministry, John Benton. Yeah. I was under his leadership until he passed away 5 years ago. And, he just always believed in me. I mean, it just didn't matter what I did. I can remember one time I really blew it at a fundraising event, and he said, that didn't go so well, did it? We're going to try again later. And, he was just not somebody, he wouldn't condemn me. He wouldn't judge. He wouldn't like make me feel bad. He would just say, now you've learned something. We're going to do it differently next time. And it just... It does something to you when you have somebody that you feel like, hey, I can blow it and I'm still going to be okay.
Yeah. So when did you think you started to actually believe in yourself? Because we sometimes we live our lives so long not believing in ourselves and other people believing in us, and gradually we start to. But when did it click? Like, oh my gosh, I believe in myself.
I think for me, it came when I learned to serve other people. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when I began to really see that the actions that I took could affect other people. So I still struggle with confidence. I still struggle with belief in myself, and then that's where I think it comes into play. Who am I in Christ, right? The identity there. And but I think it just came with time, having some successes under my belt, having long-term sobriety under my belt, and then watching, when I would say something and people would listen, I'd be like, I don't even know why they listened to me, but okay. And then it worked, and I was like, oh, that's nice. So, but I mean, I read a lot. I'm an avid learner. I mean, I'm always reading something, and I think there's something to learn. And so I think believing in myself, and this may just be, my thoughts are staying humble, knowing I don't know it all, and being willing to go find the answer if I don't know, but not needing to have all the answers.
Yeah.
So that was enough for me. I got really settled in my own skin and who I am, and that kind of changed everything.
I love that. When did you think you started transitioning from being, I don't know what you call it, not a patient there or
A student or
a
something,
student? When did you start transitioning and everyone start noticing there is just something special in you and one day you're going to become the CEO?
I think back about that a lot. I think I don't really know, because I don't think I ever felt that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people would say stuff. I was a leader. I once had a pastor tell me a few months into being a Christian and starting to stabilize, and said, you're a leader, and you're either going to lead a lot of people in the right way or a lot of people in the wrong way, but you're a leader nonetheless. And I started thinking, what does that mean, and what is my responsibility in that?
Yeah.
And so just decided, if that's true and I want to walk in that, then I better figure out how to do that in a way that serves people, loves people, and helps them get on the right path. And so I'm not sure I ever felt qualified for the positions that I took. I was just willing to try anything. And a lot of times it was just somebody pushing me into one, well, you can do that. And I'd be like, I don't know how, but I'll go figure it out. Even when I became, when they asked me if I'd be CEO, it was a couple of years before the transition was going to take place. And I can remember John Benton, our founder, pulling me into his office, and he said, been talking to the board, and we really think that you could be my successor. And he was like 80 something at this age, so it was going to happen soon, right? And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I'm not sure we're on the same wavelength, but I just really felt like, okay, but everything else I've tried, it's God's really blessed me. So I'm just going to walk into whatever this opportunity looks like, and talk to my family, my husband. Everybody was so supportive, and I think that's part of what makes in my life is just doing it afraid too. I do a lot of things afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, opportunities. I walk into rooms and I'm like, I can't do this. And I'm like, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. And so I think that there's something with just moving it forward. Because if we ever, maybe there's other people that are different, but if I had to wait till I felt like I can do it,
right,
I'd never do anything.
Well, bravery is not the absence of fear.
That's right.
Right? Because if that's the case, I won't be on this podcast today.
That's right. Yeah.
I can tell you, I can relate to some of the things you're saying, stepping out there in bravery, because there's so many things, like writing my book was one of those. Publishing my book, knowing the backlash that would come from it. But, when you're called, you're called. You got to step out in faith and do what you need to do.
That's right.
So I love that. So tell us now, where is your ministry going? What's going on with your ministry?
Okay, so Hoving Home is in 5 states. We're in New York, New Jersey, Nevada, California, and North Carolina. We have residential homes for women that are struggling with addiction, long-term care, and then transitional pieces. So we stick in there with them for multiple years. And we have one program that's women with children, so they can have restoration without separation. And then we have a crisis center. We have a leadership academy. So we have a lot of different programs on our campuses. And what we're doing, God is just providing some opportunities that have really blown me away. But we really have a heart to be in 50 states by 2050.
Wow.
The need for help for addiction is it's not slowing down. Pre-COVID, we saw really the recovery community really come together and try to reduce the overdose death rate. But we just got the reports back from November 20 to 21, and it's the highest it's ever been. Over 106,000 people died of overdose death. And so the need is massive. It's massive. And post-COVID, the anxiety, COVID was brutal on the recovery community.
Yeah.
Because groups, churches, everything shut down.
Yeah.
So what do? You're isolated.
Right.
And it was really hard. So we're just kind of making our way out of that, working through that, bringing women in and helping them. We take women ages 17 and up, all different lifestyles, and really just try to give them a safe place to land, a place they're loved, and then the tools to live a successful life.
Wow. Beth, that is definitely a calling, and it is not for everyone.
Right.
So tell me, when you find people come in and they're like, I can do this and I want to do this, what advice do you give them? What do you tell them?
When they're coming into the program?
Yeah.
It's hard, first of all, to go into a home and not know anyone. And you're going to be living with people, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically the first few weeks is let's just get you settled, get you some sleep, get you some good food, really just kind of take care of those first physical needs.
Yeah.
Then you begin to be in a community with people that are kind of just like you, but different. We all come from different places.
Yeah.
We're all different ages. I mean, I can have an 18-year-old living in a room with a 63-year-old. So learning how to live together, learning how to be in community, but there's just a sense of love. And love does something that nothing else does. We know that, right?
Yeah.
It can heal us, and it can make us crazy.
That's
it can
right.
do all of it, right?
Yeah.
And so just walking through this process with people. But I think that the thing that God has really been kind of reminding me of recently is that we just have to struggle with people, not against them. Let's just struggle with them. Let's walk through this struggle together. I'm going to get in the trenches with you. I'm going to help you get through this, and I'm not going to leave you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave you floundering. I'm going to help you get there. And so for women, unfortunately, a lot of us on staff have been through the program.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, I did it. You can do it.
Yeah.
This is just day 5. You got this. And so for some, it's like they're like gung-ho. They're ready. Life has been really hard on them, and this is their last shot. Some of them are like, I kind of want to try this, not sure yet. You just have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
I think that's how you reach people, is serve them, meet them where they are, and try to meet the immediate needs so that they feel cared for.
I like that, meeting people where they are, but because there are so many people judging out there. And one of the things I learned volunteering with your organizations and a couple of organizations is that we don't know people's backgrounds and where they're coming from. And to judge them and say, oh, that's their lifestyle and that's what they're doing and they deserve that, which you see a lot of that out there.
Yes.
Right? There's a lot of people who are not educated about the girls on the street and why they're there and why prostitution and addictions. And I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful and thankful because it's given me such a compassionate heart for those people. That's why I love coming to the Hoving Home and volunteering. But talking about, the heart and compassionate, I'm thinking, how do you keep yourself in check, and how do you do self-care? Because I know when I go to mentor, I hear these stories and I come out of there, and over the years I've learned to kind of separate, right? And you have to, but how do you, because you're in it constantly, how do you self-care?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not in it as much as I used to be now because CEO, I don't get to, of course, be in it as much. I do try to, find opportunities because I don't want to lose the why I do this.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And, but definitely it ebbed and flowed. Sometimes I felt healthy and sometimes I didn't, sometimes, I would think that I had heard the worst story ever and then I'd hear another one. I can remember back to, here in just this week. We were sitting in a meeting, and a young lady at our Vegas home here shared her story. And, I mean, it started when she was like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And I've known others where, they grew up, their parents, were producing meth. They were around drugs their whole life. And you think about that, and, the stigma around addiction, right? We know there is, and we know we've come a long way in it. We have. As more people are affected by it, we'll even come further, because you can judge it till you experience it.
That's right.
Or someone you love experiences it, and then it changes everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that in those moments, and you hear those stories, you're like, I'm not sure her life could have turned out any differently than it did. And there's a compassion that builds.
Yeah.
And for this work we do, I constantly remind my team, when you lose your compassion, you need to go take a vacation.
Yeah.
Right? You need to just get out, because when you lose your compassion is when you're just going to get on the edge of burnout and not be helpful to anybody. We give generous vacation time. We really try to do our best to talk. And, I'm not somebody that talks balance. I don't want to be a hypocrite. My life's not balanced. But I do think that for me, it's been, when I'm working, I work. When I'm home, I'm home. Mm-hmm. I just try to be in the moment. Yeah. And I don't try to be anybody's savior.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm not their answer.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I believe that Christ is the answer for the addiction crisis, but I'm not the answer. And so I don't go in feeling like what they do is my fault or my responsibility. I can only influence people. I can't control people. And that helps keep you a bit sane.
Yeah, I did. I served in a jail, a women's jail in New Jersey. This was 15, 20 years ago. And I went in there and I taught them life skills and everything. And it was such a revolving door.
Yes.
Because I went in thinking I was everybody's savior and I'm going to save them all. Yeah. That was my mentality. And I came out of there a year later depleted. And that's where I learned my lesson. That's Sally. You're not a savior. You're a vessel. You're there to bring a message to those girls. And whether they accept it or not, it is not your responsibility. Yeah. So I really like that you brought that up.
Yeah. And in the world of recovery, Sally, I think one of the things that we have to remember is that it's not pretty.
Right.
It's really messy.
That's right.
And people have these relapses and these moments, and some do and some don't, but you just don't give up.
That's right.
You just keep moving, and you just keep helping, and you just keep serving. And it's if all you want to do is look at the success stories, you won't stay in this very long. It's a messy path that we take, but as a ministry, we do it because we feel passionate and we've seen change, and we're going to do it as long as we can.
I love that. As you're saying all that, the word constant comes to my mind, because from mentoring, and you know this more than me, all the girls, the one thing they say to us, if you're not going to be a constant, then don't even do it.
Right.
Yeah, because they've had so much changes and so many people leaving in their lives that we do need that constant.
Yeah, just consistency.
Yeah. I just need people to be there for them. And like you said, regardless of what happened, they're going to fall down, and some of them are not going to make it. But you have to have just the compassion to stay there and be there. So I love that. So how can our listeners come alongside you and Hoving Home? What are some of the things we can do?
Yeah, sure. You can be involved at Hoving Home. So there's a few ways. You can check out our website, hovinghome.org, find out how to volunteer. You can give. You can pray for us. You can come to our events. We have a lot of events, and they're all listed on there. And there's so many ways to volunteer. People think, I don't know what to do. Come cook a meal. Come, I remember I had a volunteer for years. She eventually became a board member, but she started out bringing her sewing machine one night a week for 3 hours, and she would sit and hem jeans or put buttons on. And as she did that, she would just talk to the women. She didn't try to change them. She just served them in that way. And it was so powerful because there was no formal anything going on. And it really was, it's just what we try to do with volunteers is, hey, what is your skill set and how can that help our women? Let's connect those two.
Yeah.
Right? We also take donated clothing. We take donations of food and things like that. So lots of ways to be involved if you're in any of the towns that are close to us. And if you're not and you're listening, there's ways to partner and to give. And it's all on the website. And we'd love to talk to you.
Perfect. So one of the things I want to ask you is, and this is, Beth, I just hear your story. I heard it many times, but every time I hear it, it just wrecks me what the girls go through. The COVID stats that you give, it just completely wrecks me. And I know this is a tough podcast today. Mm-hmm. So I want to bring it down a little bit. Tell us something fun about yourself. What's a hidden strength that you have that no one knows about?
Oh, it's so interesting. I went through a nonprofit accelerator a few years, and one of the things that they really hit on was having hobbies, having fun. I don't naturally do that, okay? I'm pretty intense, pretty serious, but yeah. I have one thing. I don't share it very much, but I guess if I share it here, there'll be people that hear it. But I love to read Amish fiction. It's the weirdest thing, I know, and when people hear that, but it just relaxes me.
What is Amish fiction?
Like it's about the Amish people, and it's fiction about the Amish people.
I didn't know that existed.
It does. It's big in the Northeast, but it really just relaxes me. I love to read about old westerns. I love to read about people in the frontier times, just fiction or nonfiction. It doesn't matter. Just kind of reading through that and thinking, life was really different back then, but it wasn't easier or harder. I think we always trying to say, oh, things are so much harder now, or something. I think humanness is just across the board. So I love to read. I'm always reading. I love coming here to the West Coast because of your sunshine.
Yeah.
Sitting outside, just enjoying some vitamin D.
I hear you.
But my husband and I, we do a lot of weekend trips. We go and see historical sites. I enjoy seeing presidential libraries. Yeah. And just anything to kind of just get away.
So you've gone to Washington, D.C. several times?
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times.
For some reason, my husband and I always end up in Washington, D.C. in the winter time because it's Valentine's Day. We always go there, and we absolutely love it. Yeah. And the fall, the springtime when the cherry blossoms are coming out. So
we have some favorite cities. We love Savannah, Georgia.
I love Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah. Love the candy in Savannah, Georgia.
Can't beat the pralines.
So some of our favorite cities. We enjoy getting away just together and just relaxing.
So that's sort of like how you wind down from everything, just getting away.
Yeah. Turn off, and
turn off.
I can't completely turn off as CEO and with what we do, but I can limit and check it a couple times a day instead of all the time. So
yeah, no, I absolutely love that. So Beth, I just want to thank you so much, and I want to ask you, do you have any nuggets you want to give to our audience and a takeaway today?
I would just say that if you're struggling with addiction or someone you love is, don't give up. There is hope. Sometimes when things look the darkest, watch out. It's about to get bright. So hang in there. I just, I don't think there's anything worth giving up for. We've just got to keep going, keep moving, keep trying. And the only thing that causes us to lose is if we quit, right? And dawn is coming. Yeah. The morning comes.
It always, it's always a new day, a fresh start.
Yeah.
So it's never too late to start living resiliently. And one thing Beth said in the beginning, and I was really scrambling to write it down because I absolutely love it, realize a major breakdown. There has to be a major breakdown before there's a major breakthrough. And if you're struggling with addiction, just going to the Hoving Home website and clicking that link is your first step to living resiliently. Anyways, Travis, I think we're going to end the show now. And with that, I want to thank Beth for coming on our show, Sticky Paw Studio, and our audience. Much gratitude to you for listening. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe. And remember, it's never too late to start living resiliently.